Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Snoop Dogg, which are all #1 downloads on teen MP3 players in the U.S. Brahms' Lullaby, Rockabye Baby, The Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round, maybe not #1 on any download list, but certainly making a comeback in the U.S. While most teens are not going to boogie and rock it out to Rockabye Baby, 3 in 10 teens may be trying to learn the words to boogie out with their baby, literally. 17,000 teen pregnancies occur in 1 year in the United States. How many is it going to take before we decide to fully act as a whole to try to lower this number? Should we just turn our heads and let teen pregnancy continue to rise? Do pigs fly? Of course not. Who is going to make this difference? Whose responsibility is it? As a parent, a friend, a grandmother, even a sibling, of course the answer is you. I'm going to let you know some alarming facts about teen pregnancy rates in the U.S. and the primary tool to help solve it, which is communication, informative and non-judgmental. There are some barriers that prevent parents from talking openly to their children about sex and how it leads to teenage pregnancy. If you are a parent of a teen, or at some point you're going to become a parent of a teen, then one thought has surely crossed your mind, and that is sex and pregnancy. The problem is parents not knowing how to approach the subject with their kids. I myself found this to be very difficult, but after choosing my words and time very carefully, it became so much easier. We as parents often feel embarrassed to talk to our kids about sexual subjects and therefore never get to the point of teen pregnancy. Parents shouldn't feel embarrassed because we are the adults, and if we don't talk to our kids about the subject, then they become embarrassed to talk to us about it. In April 2002, the Henry J. Kaiser Foundation done a survey for youth in the United States, and what they found was absolutely shocking. 78% of teenagers had not discussed sexual issues with their parents because of embarrassment. Sometimes parents often assume that talking to their kids about the subject of sex and pregnancy would make them want to experiment. And that's normal. We all think that way. But what as we parents fail to realize is that our kids have more than likely already discussed this with friends or even just kids at school in general. And that makes them more curious to experiment without knowing the true consequences of unprotected sex. Once parents learn to overcome these communication barriers with their children, then they could possibly experience positive outcomes from discussing teen pregnancy. Now, I bet I have you wondering, what are all these positive outcomes this lady's talking about that could possibly come from talking to my kids about sex and pregnancy? Well, #1 is they are better educated about sex, which leads to better contraception use and lower sexual risk behavior, and it can promote the delay of sexual intercourse. They may choose not to have sex on their own. Let them know what you expect out of them. I'm not saying to encourage sex by no means, but I'm saying to educate them so if it happens, then they are prepared. Health, achievement, and self-esteem are 3 very important issues when it comes to outcomes of communication with your kids. We all want good health for our kids, and as our teens get older, more risk of their health becomes associated with sex. Communication is a key factor to achievement. In order for your teens to achieve their goals, they have to know what obstacles they may run into in the future. If they don't know, then they don't know how to solve them. Teenagers that have self-esteem problems, and 9 times out of 10 their parents not knowing about it, could be a #1 cause for teenage pregnancy in the U.S. They find themselves doing anything for love, even if it's getting pregnant, to keep that special someone. Demedicalization, a brand new word making its way into teen pregnancy issues. Not a hot word in Webster's dictionary, but absolutely blazing when it comes to unplanned teen births. Demedicalization is a term coined to represent taking sexual attitudes out of the medical world and putting them into the social world. Now, if you're like me, I didn't have a clue what this word meant. So, the U.S. introduced this word by studying countries with low pregnancy rates. The Netherlands was one of these. Parents here started to normalize sexual development by promoting the key factor, again, communication. Dutch parents talked openly with their children about waiting until they were ready to have sex, healthy relationships, and contraception. These beliefs by the Dutch are not within the constraints of marriage, but when they think their teens are ready for it. It is often said while Dutch try to normalize development, Americans tend to dramatize it. Contrary to popular belief, teaching and talking about contraception is not associated with adolescent sexual activities. Adolescents who received comprehensive sex education, including contraception options, had a lower risk of pregnancy than adolescents who received abstinence only or no sexual education at all. Sexually active teens that don't use contraception have a 90% chance of becoming pregnant in the first year. Perhaps someday, a condom in the wallet will be right behind the price tag when you go buy your accessories for your teen. As you can see, parents have the biggest influence over their children, and if sexual conversations were normal day by day, when appropriate, the U.S. would see a lower rate in teen pregnancy according to many studies. Want to know how to boost your teen's self-esteem? Let them know how pretty they are, and let them know that you care. Always praise them for what they do and not how well they do it. Fathers, don't treat your little girls like fragile, breakable dolls. Let them experience things. Teach them how to change their own oil. Teach them how to change their tire so they're not always depending on a man. Sometimes as parents, we just assume that they know we love them, but this isn't true, and you should share stories and laugh, and most importantly, be there when they need you. Don't be over dramatic and use phrases when talking to your teens like, oh, you just have raging hormones, or don't sneak around, or you better not get caught. These phrases so common used in the U.S. when relating to sexuality in teens, and often thought to be one reason why the U.S. has one of the highest rates of teen pregnancy in the world. I created this graph for everyone to see that U.S. is at a 41.5 highest rate of teen pregnancy out of all countries. The Netherlands that we talked about has a 5.2, which is way lower than the United States. When you look at all this information provided about teen pregnancy, once again, it all relates back to communication that is open, informative, and non-judgmental. So who can make this difference? Whose responsibility is it? Of course, the answer is you.